Welcome, welcome. Happy day 2 of Denver Startup Week. My name's Olivia Omega, and I'm the Founder Track Chair. Thank you so much for coming this morning, bright and early. And how many of you were here yesterday? All right, did you all go to the opening party? Yeah? I tried to rent some roller skates, and they wouldn't allow me, so hopefully tonight. That was probably best, I know. It was probably an accident waiting to happen. All right, well, I just want to welcome you to this very first panel of the day. We're going to bring up our panelists, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. If you are here for partnering with colleges, you're in the right place. If you're here for ag tech, then you are in the wrong place, and that is over here. But again, welcome. Yeah, don't leave. You're stuck. Oh, no, wrong place. Wrong place. It's right in this room. All right. Welcome, welcome, and thank you again.
Yeah, that should work. Hello, everybody. Thank you for showing up for our panel and not going to AgTech. I'm Devika, and I am assistant professor at MSU Denver, and I will be moderating this panel, which is on industry college partnerships and what they are, why you should consider them as startup owners, or if you are working in a startup in any capacity, and how to get linked to it. And I have my panelists here, and they will introduce themselves in a while, but I am supposed to tell you about our sponsors. So this is sponsored by the Founder Track, which was sponsored by the Madison Taylor Marketing, and we are very grateful for all our sponsors. Our major sponsors for Startup Week are Amazon, Capital One Cafe, and Dell for Startups and Downtown Denver Partnership, and this panel would not have been possible because of them. So I do want to start our panel by thanking them for the session and for providing the space and this venue. I will quickly, before we start, let all our panelists introduce themselves. So Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole McGlure, and I'm an industry navigator at MSU Denver, supporting business operations and financial services. Happy to be here.
I'm Sam Jay. I'm an associate professor of communication studies, as well as the director of faculty affairs at MSU Denver. And I do a lot of internships with our department, as well as work closely with this team to help faculty facilitate internships from our office.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nahum Kistner. I serve as the executive director for student support and retention. Good to be with you this morning.
So we'll start here, industry company partnership. The reason I wanted to bring this panel together, because I work in my research with startups. I look at how venture capital funding works and how decision-making works, and I realize that a lot of startups need a lot of expertise that is sometimes siloed in universities, and our students often need that experience. And I felt that there was a gap where startups are not utilizing the kind of human resource that we can provide and the kind of expertise that we often have in our classrooms. And so that was the initial inspiration. But when I started working with companies, there were a few fundamental things that I felt was, again, a gap, an information gap. And one of them was like, what are the different ways in which you can collaborate with our classrooms? And so I decided that, okay, let's just put it together about how you can engage with us and what does it look like. So the first one, which is probably very popular, is internships. You can offer internships in your companies and have our students work with your companies. But there are other ways of also getting engaged. One of them is class projects. So a lot of times we have a lot of class projects. I work in the School of Business. I was in the Department of Communication as well. And we look for partnerships where our students learn how to work in teams for a specific project that you have. So I've done those class projects, and they are a little different from internships because they are working in that class environment, and you're coming in as partners into that classroom space. So that is one way of getting involved. The other one is research collaborations. So we as university professors are required to do research. So a lot of times we need that access to companies. If you have marketing problems, or if you have you need a lot of research data, we can come in there, offer you our services as researchers, and use our students to build those very core foundations about how to have research questions, how to investigate them, and then we guide you through that process, give you that data, and ideally what we would like from it is a publication. So that process is slightly different, but that is one avenue in which if your startup needs data that you need to work on or questions that you need answered through research. That is one way of contacting with professors in our classes and getting that information and getting that expertise. And one of them is independent studies, which is slightly different from internships. Independent studies is when a student works with us at a senior level on a particular project. So the way that has worked for me has been that I have a student who worked for a startup that was building an algorithm to combine, to provide resources for BIPOC-owned startups, and they were looking for market research and some basic coding. So in that independent research, I found a student who was interested in building those kind of skills, and I facilitated that with active partnership with that company. It is a little time-taking because you would probably have to have weekly meetings with us with what you want and how it evolves. And so those are 4 types of ways in which you can collaborate with universities and campus spaces. And what does the process look like? So this is where the professor should probably be able to guide you, and some of these resource people here will guide you through that. But one of the first things that you probably will have to do in the process is set up the scope of the project. And that is where we have that discussion, what do you want? A lot of times, for example, I have companies that want a marketing research project, but it's not a marketing research class. So the scope of the project turns out to be slightly different, but that is a very important conversation. So the first thing is to describe the scope of the project, what the student wants to learn, what the professor wants to do, and what the company needs are. So it's kind of a needs assessment. Then you need to set up tasks that align with what we call the learning objectives of the class. So we all probably have been in a classroom or you have heard the word learning objectives. As professors, that is our first commitment, that these are some things, skills, competencies that our students will develop. And when we are working with companies, we want to be aligned so that if you are giving tasks to the student as they are working with your company, it is connected to the learning objectives of the class to the best of our abilities. And that is what the second step in that process is. Then asking for student input on tasks. Students often don't really know what they're looking for in an internship. It's a new experience. There's a lot of ambiguity. And me as a professor outside, I don't know what the culture looks like, where the student would be best fitting. And that is the third step, where you have a plan of the tasks that you want the student to do, which is beneficial for you. Then we come into consultation and ask the student what kind of resources they need to provide that kind of task for you. Part of the resources is what I can provide from a scholarly perspective, and part of it is what you can provide as far as training is concerned. So that is the third step of it. And then schedule progress check-ins. This sounds simple, that of course you need to have check-ins, and it never really works out the way you think it will. So I think the more we plan and have that plan in a contract sort of way, that there is a check-in every 3 weeks, and we are committing to that check-in, regardless of what we have achieved, what the students achieved, how ambiguous it has become, how flexible it has become, really helps. And then plan to provide feedback after the project is over, which often means during the holiday season, you are giving feedback to our student about how they did it, and often also providing certifications or some kind of acknowledgement or recommendation, offering that to the student if you're not particularly offering a salaried position or if you're doing class projects really goes a long way. And most of my students that had that kind of learning opportunity go ahead to work with those companies over the summer or during their breaks. So that is the general process of how it will work if you choose to collaborate in a classroom kind of situation. And this is just a slide where I quickly go with expectations, because expectation management is a crucial part of a collaborative process where two institutions kind of come together with slightly varying outcomes and slightly varying process expectations. So first is clear expectations, what you want from this class, what you want from the student, but being flexible because it will change. So that constant expectation management is expected of you, and at all times the student learning is at the center of that outcome. It is not necessarily what you want to get, which is part of it, but it is a secondary motive. The primary motive for us is that our students are able to learn, and often that involves a lot of failures or resetting our expectations of what the quality or quantity of the work will end up being. And then planning it with the schedule of the semester. Our first semester starts in August. till December. The second one starts from January to May. So having that kind of timeline really helps. Often companies don't have that or are not, aware of it. So if you do want to do that collaboration, summer is a great time to reach out to us so that we can plan for our classes ahead. And also, of course, winter. But as a professor, I do check out over the winter and then plan later. So summer is great time to kind of reach out to us. And giving time to the student to reflect and learn, knowing and acknowledging that the process is more important than the outcome, because we are looking at amateur work. So often the work that you will get is something you then take over in your companies and develop it further. So for example, if we create a marketing plan, it won't be perfect, but it would be a good foundational place where you have the research there and you need somebody to kind of take it forward. So knowing that that is what is the outcome that you're going for. And feedback is crucial to the professor, to the learning experience, and ideally we would want you to keep coming back and building that relationship semester over semester rather than this one-point check-in where you work with us and then we're done. Because then you can keep building that resource and that knowledge base, which is, I think, very essential for startups, because often you start projects and then they go off the side, and this kind of helps you, help us help you and have that consistent relationship with you where we can build those projects through over every 5 kind of month timeline. So on that note, I will quickly give the panel or the floor to Sam J. We can quickly go over why we should partner.
Of course. Okay, so I want to kind of tie the 4 of us together real quick before I jump in. I think Devika and I we're on the faculty side, and so what do we bring to this kind of this project? And I think what's really important, especially for startup founders and for entrepreneurs. Oh, whoops. You okay? Okay. All right, we get coffee down. I think I would encourage you to get creative if you're interested in these kinds of projects. I want to talk about projects. Nicole's going to talk about internships because the reason being, a lot of folks will think, I want to go to the business school and I want to talk to marketing professors and maybe do an internship there or a project there. From my perspective, I think you as business owners, business founders, can get the value you need, especially from faculty, across a university. So I say that, for example, when talking about some of the projects that I've done in the past. And so my background is in rhetoric and ethics. And so what we've done is we've actually partnered with a lot of businesses to kind of create things like marketing plans that are grounded in an ethic of care, or an ethic of the consumer, or something like a philosophical ethic. And you say, what does that even mean? Well, what that does is it infuses something like a moral philosophy into things like social media marketing planning. So that may sound ridiculous, but at the end of the day, those are the kinds of skills that we want our students and you as owners to be able to have as you begin to reach out to your audiences, for example. And so that's one thing that I kind of wanted to bring up and circle back to. The second thing is, and Naam's going to talk about it, these projects lead to student retention. And that is what is so important to what we're doing here. So from our perspective, if we can get a student partnering with a business owner or a company, and even if it's a one-off kind of end of semester project, that has been scientifically proven to actually lead to student retention. Students connect to campus, they connect to companies, they connect to their faculty member. It gives them purpose. It allows them to continue through to graduation. So it's immensely important for us to have these partnerships and to find these partnerships for you. So that was the second thing I wanted to say. And then why partner? Okay, so again, those are 2 of the kind of examples that I bring up, right? It's good for us, it's good for you, but I think it allows our students to get those kind of real world experiences, whether that's a semester long thing, a year long thing, or just kind of a end of semester project. It allows them to find potential employers, to make connections, to get out of their comfort zone. It allows them to expand their networks. We've had students do things like conference planning from our Department of Communication Studies. We've had students work with companies on, again, brand development. So a lot of that stuff, you would think it's PR, what have you, and we've partnered with our PR department, but these are the kinds of things that we think that, depending on which department you work with, our students are going to be able to bring value to you. So again, bolstering your branding, you get more access to data and resources, right? So we really encourage in students, these kind of projects, what are the outcomes that we're tracking? How can they provide you with data about those outcomes? And then lastly, of course, it's cost effective. We don't want to take advantage of our students too much, but we also understand that there's a lot of value to an internship, not just for a student, but a business owner. So I'll give you an example of kind of what we're working on here. We're developing a health institute at the university. So new nursing labs and a bunch of kind of skills labs for many of our health sciences. And we were beginning to partner with UC Colorado and their cancer center. They've realized that they get a lot of folks in the cancer center who want to be MDs, or they want to be RNs, or they want to be PAs. And what they actually need are a lot of clinical researchers. Students aren't really aware of clinical research as an opportunity when they're going through those classes at an undergrad level. My wife my wife did all of her coursework in genetics and biotechnology and didn't really realize that something like clinical research was going to be her career until she found that job. And so we are partnering, we're starting to partner with UC Denver to actually create internships that allow our students to get experience in the lab while they are actually training our students, and hopefully leading into a pipeline that will be cost effective for the cancer center, while also giving our students an opportunity to actually find their way into a full-time position once they are done. Normally it would take them 6-7 months to hire and train a clinical researcher. Now those folks are just going to be taking that as part of coursework for them. And so those are the kind of advantages that I want to talk about from a faculty perspective. I don't think we can really undersell the value of having, again, that foundation in theory that may kind of ground this internship. I think we overlook that, but I can assure you, at least from my experience, that it does add a lot of value. What's our next slide? Did I do it? Okay. All right. You're up. Yeah.
So I want to give just some context about who our students are at MSU Denver as it relates to, I think, just work history, but also their career development. And so 80% of the students at MSU Denver are working full-time. We have over 16,000 students that have admitted to the university, and 80% of them are working full-time. To give you some perspective, national data tells us that 40% of full-time students are working, and 74% of part-time students are working. So from that, you can tell our students are working more. And so for me, coming from the lens of student engagement and retention, to me, I believe that our students are bringing several elements of time management, being able to prioritize life. Our students are caretakers, they are parents, they're students, so they're juggling quite a bit. And so when they're coming to your organization, they're already bringing sort of life experiences to your organization. In addition to that, lots of companies are expressing the need to diversify their workforce. 58% of our students are students of color. And so knowing the strength that our students are bringing in terms of perspective and lens that they bring to your organization, you'll have that with our students. And as I think about soft skills, so there's years we've been talking about sort of this 21st century skills development. And as I think about the characteristics of our students, I think about the word grit. There's this term, grit hypothesis, and it was coined by Angela Duckworth, who was a renowned psychologist who's done a lot of work when it relates to grit and what it means. And she believes firmly that grit is a strong indicator of college success, career success, and personal success. And so I'll read it. Duckworth defines grit as passion and sustained persistence applied toward a long-term goal or achievement, with no particular concern or reward or recognition along the way. And so I think that's pretty important to understand just from a character development. When we hire, we're looking for, okay, yes, does this person have the knowledge to be able to do what they want to do? But also, man, it'd be nice if they're of good character. We want that. And so, that's the foundation of who our students are, what they bring to the table. They're coming with that perseverance. They're coming with the ability to be able to navigate life, just like we all do, but as an early age. And so as we think about those 21st century skills, I think about, particularly when we hire from a higher education, particularly in student affairs, I think about collaboration. I think about critical thinking skills. I think about being able to be a part of a team. Dare I say, being able to receive feedback. I think that's a skill. And so our students are developing those from very, very early on. And so from the time that freshmen come onto our campus, we're infusing career development, we're infusing career-related activities, whether it's an internship or whether it's a shadow or working alongside a faculty member to really understand, maybe it's a research project, but they're developing those skills very, very early on. And so the goal goal is that when they get to your organizations, they're already going to have a lot of those skill sets. So clearly they're going to make some mistakes just because it potentially is new, but they also have a strong foundation of work ethic. We know that they can handle the workload. Lots of our students, many of our students, are working because they are one of the financial contributors to their family. So they have that responsibility as a character. And then lastly, two last points, our students are non-traditional students. And so what that means is that our average age on our campus is 25 years old. And so they're coming to your businesses with life experience. So there's an element of maturity there. And so when they are coming to your organizations, they've been able to navigate life. They've been able to have work experiences that were good and bad. They've had good bosses. They've had bad bosses, good experiences. And so they're coming with all of that and really looking for that opportunity to excel. And so I think as you're looking across your organization, what are those needs that you have? What are the basic fundamentals that you want for your team? And I firmly believe that our students are able to provide those experiences and be an asset to your team. Nicole?
I'll do one quick example of this. So, and then it's all Nicole's. Okay, Nicole's going to explain how to set up an internship. But the reason why we wanted an example of kind of a good partnership. So, a couple of my pals started Lock & Co. Whiskey Company years back. I don't know if any of you have had Lock & Co., but it's fantastic whiskey. It's unique in that they put charred aspen discs in the barrel at the end of the aging process, so it's got this spice to it. But that's my pitch. But they are growing, and they've expanded to different parts of the country in terms of distribution, and they needed to try out their marketing, their social media. They needed somebody who could devote more time to it than Owen and Rick could. And so actually this summer and now this semester, they have a student who is working for them, internship basis. Well, actually, they started, the summer was an internship. They've now hired her part-time, and she'll be going full-time in the spring once she graduates. She will be their social media marketing person. And this just happened. It was kind of serendipitous that they needed somebody. We had somebody at MSU Denver. But the stuff that Nahum's really talking about with this person having that experience, the real-world experience that allows them to be diligent and to show grit and to be organized is really what has made the experience for Owen and Rick, as well as for Katie, so valuable. And so this was just kind of a quick success story, but now I want to throw it to Nicole to really talk about how we can set up internships for you.
Great. I'm going to stand because these chairs are a little too tall, and I'm not, my height is awkward. Okay, so first thing you want to do, maybe some folks have a connection to a faculty member and they just can connect right to that faculty member, but many employers do not. So if you do not, the first thing you want to do is you want to email our c2hub@msudenver.edu. When you email us, you want to explain who are you, what do you do, and what industry are you in. Our front desk staff will get that email and then they will distribute it to one of our industry navigators, which are people like myself. We are folks who are really well versed on specific industries, and not only are we versed on the industry, the recruitment cycles, when you need to really have people really onboarded and brought onto your teams, but we're also really well connected to the faculty in those disciplines. So myself, I'm marketing, management, finance, accounting, and entrepreneurship. So if you want someone in any of those majors, I not only know all the faculty and staff, but I also am really well connected to the students, and they trust me when I reach out to them. So once you send that email to our C2 Hub email, they'll connect you to an industry navigator like myself, and then we'll connect with you. And sometimes you just have a quick question and we can just respond over email, but most of the time we will set up a one-on-one meeting with you, and in that meeting we'll talk about what are your needs. Do you want to get in front of a classroom and do just a classroom presentation to build your brand? Do you want to do one of those classroom presentations that we were talking about earlier, building that relationship with a project? Or are you hoping to build an internship program or have a full-time role or a part-time role? Depending on what your needs are will depend on kind of where we take that conversation. Next slide. So if you're hoping to develop an internship plan, an internship program, or you're trying to do a job, sometimes folks are like, I don't even know where to start with that. And we can help you build that infrastructure. So our internships, we really do encourage folks to do paid internships, but we have opportunities for folks who are not able to pay interns right away. So we have a program, called Earn and Learn. So if you are an organization, you're a startup, but you have the infrastructure to where an intern could come in and be successful, we will pay those interns while they're at your organization. We also have a program called Off-Campus Work Study, where if you're a non-politically affiliated organization and that student is work study eligible, then the MSU Denver will pay them. So it's kind of either you'll pay half, we pay half, or you pay 25% and we pay 75%. But we have programs in place to where if an internship program where a full-time intern is just not something that you have the infrastructure for, we can support you with that and make sure that student gets paid. So we will work with you to create that job description, and then from there, not only get it posted to our students through our career database, which is called Career Link, but also to connect you to recruitment opportunities. So whether that's an on-campus career fair, whether that's a virtual info session, an on-campus info session, a tabling opportunity, or going in front of classrooms to talk about that opportunity, we will do really whatever it takes to work with you to get that in front of our students. So once you email us, you'll get connected to an industry navigator like myself. We'll decide what is it that you want. Do you want to do an internship, full-time, part-time role? Do you have the infrastructure to pay those interns, or will this be an unpaid internship where we will need to pay them? And then we kind of go from there. So whether you are trying to get in front of a class and do a project with a class, whether you're trying to hire our students, have an intern from MSU Denver, or you just want to build your brand on campus and work with us, we are really the perfect place with our thousands and thousands of students who are non-traditional, who 80% of them work full time. If you're not coming to MSU Denver, I mean, what are you doing? Yeah, so that's all my stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. So we do have some time. The organizers told me that we can have a little more time for questions. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer. And we can take another 10 minutes or so here. And yeah, sorry about that. But you're welcome for that little coffee thing. It's nothing better than smell like coffee at the beginning of a session.
All right, so I have a couple questions. I started my company out of going back to school after working. I took some classes at Metro, so go Roadrunners. But a couple of questions on the research side. How do we handle sensitive information and NDAs? Question would be so right now we're going through the fundraising process and we're talking to VCs, and I'm fine with students or researchers who want to view those documents and be along for that ride with me, but obviously I don't want that getting out to our competitors or obviously other VCs that we're bidding against. So how would we handle that?
I will answer that because I have done that because I worked with startups and have students working with startups. Part of the thing is that you need to have a professor who understands those ideas of an NDA and a patent or what is important. And I never had an issue. We do sign an NDA before any information gets passed down. And after the semester is over, the student loses access to that information. So what you give the student is a presentation we vet it. Mm-hmm. So whatever we have, a portfolio or whatever, something to evidence for the student that this is information, and we black out some of those information that is crucial for your particular program. But it does happen with a lot of hand-holding with the professor, particularly entrepreneurship professors are very experienced in that. I am fairly experienced in that, and generally students don't take it forward. I have only had one case, but that was not in MSU Denver, primarily because it was in Purdue, which was a research institution, and there was some other element happening there. But NDAs have been very successful, and it's mostly just socializing the student what it means. Mm-hmm. It means that you cannot discuss certain elements and having that really clearly stated. And then the professor kind of guides you to that process.
Right, and what about professor published studies and things like that nature?
So when you sign that NDA, there is a clear expectation of research, because a part of it is that when we do research, we don't do it in a way that will jeopardize your data or your product. So you can use that, but our research is supposed to be unique and peer-reviewed. So in many ways, we don't give identifying information at all in our research papers. But once we publish it, which takes up to 2 years, you'll probably be in a position where you have already used that data for
Yeah, it'll be
your
worthless.
benefit. Yeah. So that has never really been a case, especially again, as researchers, we're not trying to jeopardize your project. We are trying to use the data that we engendered and then using it in a way that you can use it. So you will use it in conferences for fundraising way before it even gets published. But it's always good to have that timeline in place too. That what is the timeline? So if you slack off, then I might say like, I need to publish this data, but let's talk about ways in which it cannot be manipulated or used by other companies.
All right, cool. And sorry, I just have one more question for internships. What is like the average wage or wage replacement that students would need to like make that? Because it's if they're getting $10 an hour, they're still going to have work 40 hours a week to support their family. What would be it where it's like if they do 10 hours for us, they could still do 30 hours of their normal job and still come out relatively not being homeless and supporting their family?
Yeah, we like our internships to be at least minimum wage. So whatever minimum wage is at Denver at the time, for those internships to be that. And then if you're feeling like that's not doable, then you would partner with one of those programs. The students that I work with in management, finance, accounting, they very, very rarely ever take unpaid internships, management, marketing. So we definitely try and partner with you all so that they are always getting paid, but at least minimum wage.
All right. I mean, that's required by law, but yeah, it's like I would say like you could get McDonald's is paying $20 an hour, so what's the average pay? Like it's like, hey, I need a finance intern. Is it going to be $25 an hour total, whether it's split or just
it's hard to say what the average is. So for example, we just had an employer post an internship position that's part-time and it's paying $32 an hour, but it's a really big deal, one of the top 10 in the country, right? But we've also had smaller firms who post internships and they're $18 an hour. And the smaller ones are often more flexible with the students because, like Nam said, they're working in a full-time job already on top of going to school. So sometimes that student needs that experience so much that they're willing to take something that pays a little bit less, that is still, of course, a competitive wage that pays a little bit less because they're so much more flexible compared to this Big 10, $32 an hour, but you have to work these specific hours and there's no flexibility. So students are adaptable, they're flexible, and they're willing to do what it takes to get that experience. And if you're going to be flexible with them, then that's going to work really well. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, totally.
Great.
Yeah,
Hello, Liz Leader, SVN Denver Commercial. I'm wondering, I've had a product idea in my head for probably 15 years now, but I work in commercial real estate and I'm an attorney, so I don't know really where to start, but I think I need to work with a university, honestly. But with that being said, part of what I'm thinking is if someone's helping me research my product idea, then do you all help form companies together? Because other universities do that and have the students and the university doing a joint program, joint business together.
That's an interesting question. It depends on a lot of factors. Now, MSU Denver might not be that particular institution, but it's not that there's not a possibility. I personally work with a lot of people who come in that very formative stages of product development, and I help with something that I call company diagnostics. So I basically help companies decide if you have this, if you have this, if you have this, getting you to the point where you can give a pitch. So I'll be the one who's telling you, like, you don't have that. You don't have that. And then my student comes in, or I'll ask you n number of questions. Like, go ahead, think about these things, come back to me in 2 weeks. So that's the kind of service I provide as a consultant. But when my student work with it, then we work with you to answer those questions. And at some point, if it aligns with people and we can explore the resources, MSU Denver is not a research university, so in most cases we don't have those kind of collaborations, but it doesn't mean that we might not be able to connect you to other resources, because I do have colleagues in Arvin institutions who might be able to help, but it is slightly different. But what we can help you with, what I can help you with, is getting to a point where you can find those partners. For example, one of the skill sets I provide is team formation. So I tell you the competencies you need to form a team, and then you take that forward and find people like that in your advisory board or in your formative team. I connect you with Commons at Champa that can help you with that as well. But if you go to Commons at Champa and I need that help, it is more, it just works better when I tell you this is exactly what you need. And so that is how I have worked with companies. I just don't have the bandwidth to form a company yet, but, or, there's not been an idea that I'll be like, I'm sold, I'm gonna go in and not spend time with my family and do that. But I would say like MSU Denver is probably not that place, but it is a place where you can get to a place where you can explore that option. Maybe one last question.
Hi. Hey, my name is Jason. Just on that topic as well, I'm serving as a volunteer for TIE Colorado. It used to be TIE Denver. It's kind of reformulated. And I was just having a conversation last night about, they're wanting to source interns. And we were talking through, on a project basis, like getting more strategic, with a university partner, for example, on, in the entrepreneurship program and what that additional organization can do. So that was my thinking of maybe that type of an institutional arrangement, but then also thinking through just that they need marketing capacity as a nonprofit organization, to really think through, and that could provide a lot of additional insights. Maybe that student can even lead a new program within MSU. So I'm just, and I was going to hit you up afterwards, definitely on an email and try to get sorted out. But that was just my line of thinking around that.
Yeah, I can. So those kinds of partnerships, they can exist and they have existed at the university. I would encourage you to, reach out to Nicole to start with, and then she would know which faculty member to kind of put you in collaboration with. But we have done long-term internships, at least in communication studies, with one company or one nonprofit with, I don't want to say student turnover, right? But it's kind of the same class, but you're going to get a different set of students every semester. And I know that our PR and media relations department has done the same thing. So you will continue to get some consistency and a through line with a particular professor or department. It's just kind of figuring out what you need in terms of whether it be marketing or social media, or whether it's some kind of business consulting, entrepreneurial stuff. It's just really kind of figuring out which department, which professor you want to be partnering with on that. But we can totally do that for you.
Basically connect with the industry navigator.
Yep.
Where you can get those very case-by-case kind of. So connecting with the industry navigator helps you because everybody has a different kind of requirement, and that's the first step. So you state your requirement, what you're looking for, what kind of skill sets you look for, and then they can contact us, and we can kind of work it out. So that's how it works, yeah.
And I just want to say we do have some resources. So if you afterwards you want a handout about internships, earn and learn program, off-campus work study, business cards, just come see us over there, and I have some resources for you.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll hang around here for some time. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for your consideration and time. And I hope that some of you will continue to work with us or come to our doors, and we would love to have our students work with you and further your company's ideas, lives and goals and hopes and dreams. So thank you so much. Have a great start of the week.